where it goes down, where you hear about the sports all around town. In the country, full of controversy to the highlights. You just not safe in the limelight.
Interviews. He was there in the locker room, got a great kickoff start in the Philadelphia area at Temple University, doing his thing, and then stepped on the scene, going down Broad Street, getting more great interviews and being a part of that story franchise in the Sixers, and being a journalist, being part of some of the great publications in NBA history and sports basketball history, man. And I'm telling you, he's really a low-key icon. People don't even know this yet, but our esteemed guest today is Mr. Anthony Gilbert. Anthony Gilbert, AG, thank you for coming to the show today, sir. We appreciate you, baby.
Hey, brothers, thank you, first of all. I appreciate that, man. Sometimes you're just in it. You're in the grind, so sometimes you don't stop to smell the flowers. But TJ, man, I appreciate that intro, and gentlemen, thank you for having me on.
Most definitely, AG. So we're gonna get right to it, man. When did you most importantly fall in love with sports? And then was there anybody who inspired you, maybe a family member or a close friend?
Yeah, so shout out to my older brother. He got me into football, into American football. So this is back when, the Steelers were coming off of their Super Bowl run in the, late 70s, early 80s. And I was a kid, like a toddler, just trying to chase after my older brother. And the one time when I could really catch him and get him to like show me some type of acknowledgement was when he was watching football. And in sports, they always capitalize on dynasties. So I don't remember the Cowboys being good, but I definitely remember it being the Pittsburgh Steelers, and just like, okay, if this is what we're doing, like I'm rolling with you. So shout out to my older brother, Andy.
Got it. So kicking off with that, man, you've had a great career in the industry and in journalism and media and everything from top to bottom. When did you see yourself wanting to actually step into that arena and become a journalist? Maybe around what age? Was it middle school, high school? When did you fall in love with writing or being a journalist in nature?
So it definitely started when I was in high school.
Okay.
I grew up between Philly and New York City. So, and then in the summers, I'd be right outside of DC in Prince George's County, Maryland. So to be able to travel at a young age and live in these different places and really, I fell in love with basketball, and I learned really quickly by the age of 15, like I'm not on the same level as some of my contemporaries that was in my age group. So I went the other way. I still wanted to be involved. I wanted to be down, watching NBA inside stuff. Ahmad Rashad, like he was my North Star, so I knew I wasn't going to be Rip Hamilton, Kobe Bryant. So I went the other way, and just watching Ahmad Rashad Saturday mornings, seeing him walk into the locker room, like my main man, like I wanted to do that, man. I really wanted to do that, and that inspired me, and it still pushes me.
Okay, go ahead, Kev.
Early on, you were heavy on the Philly scene with sports.
Mm-hmm.
When was that moment when you knew you arrived?
It's funny you asked that question because I was listening to JJ Redick the other day, and he had a similar question, and it was like, what sporting event in history would you camp out for?
Okay.
And I went through my mind like, okay, I've been to the finals. I've been to the World Series, and I've covered all these events. I've interviewed Michael Jordan, Hank Aaron, so I'm just trying to go through my mind like, man, what is it? Like, when was it? For me, I'd say I really got excited when I did my internship with Madison Square Garden. And then the Knicks were in the playoffs against the Pacers. So Knicks Pacers, we all know that history is like
yes,
3-4 years, in a row. And this is the year, so this is 2000. This is the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Pacers actually beat the Knicks. And I just remember the air being sucked out of Madison Square Garden. And I just remember sitting there like, wow. Like, not only did the Knicks lose, but like I'm here, like Reggie Miller, Spike Lee, like I'm here. Like, so that's when it really kind of hit me like, okay,
You got to
like
share in that moment.
yeah, and like it was a point of no return. Like I can't go back. You know what I mean?
Well, with that being said, so you're in the Garden, you got to witness the Pacers knock off the Knicks, and as you say, the air literally got sucked out of that room. So clearly at this point, you're an experienced journalist who's chatted with so many stars and icons. Who was your first big interview, and what do you recall from that specific conversation?
Okay.
AG got to ponder this because AG got thousands of them, so you got to take a moment and think about it.
Okay. I would say my first big one would be Spike Lee.
Okay.
And
Wow.
like I grew up as a Spike Lee fan. I also studied film as an undergrad. So, and he's the reason why. So if Ahmad Rashad was the one guy that I looked at and said, that's what I want to be, Spike Lee was the other guy. So I had my balance. I had my yin and I had my yang. So Spike, I actually did an interview with him for Soul Collector magazine. And this is in 2005. So this was during the Jordan anniversary.
Okay.
And he invited me to come on the set, and they were actually doing the commercial for the Jordan 20. And I'm sitting there like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. Because like, it's Spike Lee, and he's like, all right, quiet everybody. Quiet on the set. And I'm just like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. And he's doing his thing. And then they wrapped for the day. And he's like, okay, what's up? What's going on? And I'm just sitting there like, hey man, like my name's Anthony. Like, just want to ask you a couple questions. And automatically the ice just broke. And he just was like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And we just sat for like 90 minutes. And I had him cracking up. And it definitely is like at the top of my list for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, TJ.
So, AG, you already spoke about the great Ahmad Rashad being your North Star. And I wanted to ask you, who is that barometer? Who is that measuring stick for you? But outside of Ahmad, was there anybody else that you looked to and looked up to as you ascended throughout your career in sports journalism and media?
So when I was a student at Temple, I worked for several different teams. I worked for women's volleyball, I worked for football, and I did men's and women's basketball. And there was a woman that used to cover the Atlantic 10 basketball games. This is when Temple was in the Atlantic 10 conference. And her name was Doris Burke.
Oh, DB. Shout out DB.
Super chill, super knowledgeable, and very professional, and always like happy to help and answer questions. So she was one of the first people that really kind of helped me understand what was going on. And then the other person would be Scoop Jackson.
It's a legend in the game.
Wow, you got legends right there, AG. And that's a Hall of Fame in DB, bro. I didn't even know that about you. Impressive.
Yeah. So Doris Burke, man, she was super cool. And like she was finding her way. I mean, she was doing Atlantic 10 Network, but she was really good. And she was helpful. I'd ask questions and she'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. She'd be like, oh yeah, you go to Temple, right? You know what I mean? Because like it would be conference tournament, Atlantic 10 conference, or if Temple had a big game, Temple UMass or something like that. And it's just crazy. Like when I run into her now, she's like, hey kid, what's up?
Wow.
And I'm like, hey, Doris, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, DB? Like it's just, it's kind of surreal. And then Scoop, I actually texted him last night And he texted me back late, you know, because Chicago is 2 hours back from the East Coast. And so I woke up this morning with a couple messages from Scoop. So it was pretty cool.
Solid.
Well, you mentioned Scoop and you mentioned Doris, of course, and then
Mm-hmm.
with Scoop, you know, everybody knows legendary status. And brings to mind Slam Magazine, which was a staple as I was growing up as a basketball fan. And J. Cole summed it up perfectly on his song, I Got It. He says, but I'm hoop dreaming, hanging up pictures of my idols. Jordan was like Jesus. Slam was like the Bible. I used to read it twice and cut the pictures out. I had the Jordan free throw dunk, tongue sticking out. You were a major part of that, providing some of the content that so many of us read and aspired to. Were you aware of the impact that you were having at the time, the impact of the magazine as well? Or is this something that you now look back at and realize what was going on at that particular time?
Actually, yeah, I did. I knew the full magnitude because I remember Slam coming out in '94 and just being like, what is this? Like, I grew up on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
You know, so Slam was something that I looked at and was like, well, wait a minute, this is for us. You know, like not only was like Sports Illustrated is high level, long form journalism, super respected, you know, legendary. They have the longevity. But it was for like your parents, for like your uncle or your aunt or somebody like that, right? And I used to love the pictures, but I never used to like really read it. The Slam was kind of like, okay, we're gonna take Sports Illustrated and we're gonna bring it down to like a adolescent, like teen level. So I was that kid hanging pictures up from Slam. I remember the first issue I got was the AI issue, Georgetown. Shout out to the Hoyas. And I would just remember thinking to myself, like, man, and it's weird. I got the AI issue. The Larry Johnson issue was the first issue, but I got that one like later on. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Like I just kind of like lucked up one day and was like, oh, this is the first issue. So when I got the call to write for them, I was ecstatic. What happened was a guy that I knew, we were kind of talking and we're just kind of figuring our way out in this journalism space. I had one published story on NBA.com in the year 2000. And in 2003, I'm just having a conversation with a buddy of mine. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm writing for Slam. I'm like, what? What? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, man. Well, can you put me in contact with somebody over there? Like, I don't want no trouble. Like, but just like, I'll do the rest. And he's like, yeah, I can't guarantee anything. I was like, that's fine. I just need, just open the door for me. And he did that. And the editor at the time was Ryan Jones. And Ryan gave me a chance. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. He's like, what have you written? And I was like, well, I wrote one piece on NBA.com a couple of years back. This is my background. These are the players I know. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And that was 2003, and we've been rolling since.
Nice.
Hey, AG, real quick, let me see if I can get your basketball mind going. I know it's a little early, bro, but we talking about Sports Illustrated. We talking about SI, but you remember Sport back in the day too?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Sport magazine, Street and Smith.
Street,
I used to read all those. Man.
Yeah, AG know them joints.
Yeah, it was funny because like my friends growing up, I used to read the sports section to them. Like we would be headed to like the playground. You know, back then you go to the playground, you're there all day. You know, your folks tell you like, hey, come home before that street light comes on.
Yeah.
You know, I remember turning the block and like the girls be outside playing double dutch and they're like, your mom was out here looking for you. I'm like, oh man, that meant big trouble, man. But yeah, so I remember before we would go up there, I would buy the newspaper from 7-Eleven. And I'm like, all right, y'all sit down here. Let me run the scores to y'all and this and that. And they're like, man, you always doing this. I'm like, just sit here. Let me read to y'all, tell y'all what happened. Let me read the scores, let me read the highlights. And I would. And thank God they used to sit there and listen. Because that was how I practiced. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is what I want to do.
Cool. So, AJ, I know you ran off a couple ones. You talking about grandmama, LJ's issue, and we talking about AI's issue. But throughout the history of Slam Magazine, there's been some iconic, imaginable covers. For you, what was your 2 favorite all-time covers of Slam? And I know there's so many, it's so numerous, but for you, which 2 will always stick out and be your legendary ones, if you don't mind us asking?
Sure, yeah. First is Kobe, Lord of the Rings. There's one he has on a black Lakers uniform, and he's posing with the 3
trophies in
championships.
front of him.
Yeah, with the 3
Larry O'Brien.
I love that cover, man. I call that one Lord of the Rings. I don't know if it's officially called that one, but that's one of my favorites. And then my second one, that's a good one. I'd probably be the one of the 10th anniversary ones because I have a story in there.
Okay.
There's an AI cover. There's a Shaq cover for the 10th, and I think there's a KG cover. And I just liked how they did it. And 10 is a great number, and like I said, I have a story in there. So definitely one of the ones. I got to pick one of the ones that I'm published in.
Makes sense. Got you. Go ahead, Kev. What's up?
All right. Well, my question here, but we here at the Stoops cover not only the sport of basketball, but as well as the culture. Hip hop influence is undeniable.
Sure.
In keeping with that, you quote rap lyrics occasionally on your social media, and your time is as you spoke about earlier with Soul Collector, clearly indicates your affinity for kicks. And it's been said that the Jordan 4s were the first pair of sneakers that you purchased with your own money. Does that nostalgia add to the experience and say that is your top all-time favorite shoe, or is there another shoe that you salivate over when it drops?
Well, first, I just got to give you guys much respect for that research. Somebody just asked me that last week. They're like, it's a guy, he's trying to get into the game, and I'm like, hey man, like just buy whatever you like, you know what I mean? And he's like, okay, like, but I need to get the Bel Airs this weekend. And I was like, if that's what you want, like, there's no rules to this. But he was like, well, what's your favorite Jordan of all time? And I was like, well, I actually have them. I was like, it's the Jordan 4 from 1999.
89.
I wanted them in 89, but I got the retro in 99.
I got you.
But like I knew I wasn't going to get them in 1989, so I never even asked my parents. Like I knew the answer was no, so I didn't even ask. So I just kind of used to look at them from afar, and then one day I see this young lady walking around with them in the summer of 99, and I'm like, where'd you get those? And she's like, oh, I bought them at the gallery. I was like, no, wait, I don't need to know. I don't need to know your spot, nothing. Like, if I give you the bread, can you get me a 10 and a half? And she was like, sure. And I was like, bet. I gave her $99. I said, keep the dollar. I don't need to know nothing. And the next day she handed them to me. And I remember my girlfriend at the time was like, I could have got you this. Babe, hold on. This is totally different. This is another level. Like, I am now a kid again. You know what I mean? Because
Great.
we couldn't. There was no such thing as a retro before. Like, Jordans came out. They came out in February. Then they came out again around Easter holiday, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you see them the next year in a different, iteration. Like, That's it. So when I saw them, I was like, I just stopped. Like, whoa, wait a minute, wait, those look new. Like, where'd you get those? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Jordan 4 for sure. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but Jordan Black.
No worries.
Appreciate
No
that.
worries.
Yeah,
AG, no worries.
Black,
You said
black
those are your
cement.
favorite Jordans. Are those your favorite all-time shoe, though?
Favorite all-time shoe, Air Max 95. Another shoe that I
Ooh, classic.
bought my own money. The original with the 25 PSI on the air bubble.
Yeah.
I got those. I remember I purchased those in Philly as well. Not at the gallery, but like one of those, like I think I was on Chestnut Street somewhere, like, and just was like, whoa, what are these? And like I remember wearing them with everything because I just was like, this
AG,
is nuts.
you pull up
Mhm.
on City Blue on Chestnut.
For sure.
Yeah,
It probably was City Blue. It
City
was one of those like, low key spots. You just walk in like, oh, wait a minute, what's that? And I remember it catching my eye. But the crazy thing is, I had a homeboy, and he always bought the Jordans. Well, his mom bought them, and I just remember like he would always brag like, "Yo, I got these," and I'm like, "I got them too." He's like, "But I had them first," and I'm like, "All right, man. Well, we were the same size," and I remember making a trade with him for the Concord Jordan in '95. Remember, they came out a year before, and then they came out in '96. So we traded, and I believe I gave him my OG Air Max 95s. And then I remember having like remorse, like, man, I don't even like these Jordans. Give me my 95s back. But yeah, that was just a good time. Like, so Air Max 95. I love Air Force Ones as well, but I'd have to say Air Max 95 and Jordan 4 Black Cement.
There you go.
AG, the term for the culture is what's the new term out here, man. When you speak about for the culture, like Kev said, you referencing rap lyrics in your articles, and you just being, you was a new kid on the block and still the new kid on the block, but with a legendary career. But man, as you think about the culture and you think about what it's done for basketball and basketball with its infusion of hip hop, man, what does that do for you? What does that mean to you?
When I hear for the culture, it kind of takes me back to for us, by us. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think about anything but us when I hear that. You know what I'm saying? I don't care who says it. My automatic thought is like, okay, that's a nod to us. Yeah, that's a nod to like where we come from and these places where we have lived. Black culture is pop culture, and I can say that unequivocally. Like, I dare somebody to say, no, it's not. Because it is. Like, even look at just during like the stay-at-home quarantine order, like what popped off? Versus,
most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
definitely.
D Nice did a set like for like a weekend, and like everybody was in there on Instagram Live. Like it's us. Like we run it, and I'm thankful for that. And it's cool that that now we can kind of throw like a term to it. I just don't like when like sometimes it's used either loosely or is used and it's like, nah, that ain't it, man. Come on, like leave that to us.
Misrepresented.
Yeah, let us do that. We got you. Have y'all ever noticed it's like a lot of trends and things that we do is kind of just like we just do it, and it just is. It just lives and breathes. But then like when it goes mainstream, it's like, come on, man. Here y'all go, man. Yeah. Okay, time to do something else. Yes. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is.
We got it. Well, I want to pivot for a second here because I want to actually speak about basketball for a moment, as we have now. As you talked about with the culture, we always find a way to adapt. We find a way to do some things, and we make it fly. And I give credit to the NBA for coming back with the bubble and making things happen and adjusting on the fly. The playoffs have started, and your beloved Sixers dropped Game 1 versus the Celtics.
Absolutely.
You were a bit of a critic of their play and tweeted out the following. Down 6 with 12 seconds to go, and your all-star center is shooting from beyond the arc. Philadelphia lacks discipline. Spot on analysis, by the way.
Thank you,
The
brother.
question is, do you still trust the process?
Hold on, AG, real quick before you answer that, AG. Hold on, yo, Kev,
Okay.
you gonna cut that out because AG, unbeknownst to you, we have a little situation within the Stoop, our brotherhood. One guy saying one guy got to go, another guy saying another guy got to go, and you can obviously tell by that comment that he's agreeing with you, his pick versus my pick. But go ahead, AG,
Okay.
I'll let you answer that.
All right. So, I do not trust the process. So you guys know this. The great teams have what it takes and have leadership from the top down.
Yes.
Like that's what they have. Like you don't win a championship without it. So that being said, Philly lacks discipline not only in how they're coached and how they play, but in how they're led and how they're governed. I come from the no boys allowed NBA, and this NBA,
Yes.
the boys are definitely allowed to play. There's a lot of hand holding and a lot of coddling, and I would rather the team be geared more towards like, hey, you're an adult and we're going to treat you as such. This is the rules and this is how we do things. Because those are the teams that win. So I don't trust the process. I think that the leadership needs to either change or be removed, or however nicely I can say it. Because it's like parenting or being a teacher in a class. You can't come out day one and be super happy and cake and ice cream, and then 45 days in start cracking the whip. You can't do it. You lost the kids already.
Great analogy, sir. Great analogy.
They're not gonna be like, what? Like, wait, what? Nah, the fence is open. That they done already left the gate. You need a new regime to really establish rapport. So I'll take y'all behind the curtain really quickly.
Okay, please do.
So last season, not this season, because this season is still yet to be determined. But last season, the Sixers went to Atlanta, and they lost that game. And they had to play Orlando the next night. But instead of somebody saying, hey, we need to get out of here, we need to go straight to Central Florida and get ready for tomorrow, because they were jockeying for playoff position. This was late last season, so you guys can look it up. Instead, they stayed in the A. And then they went to Orlando the next day, and they lost that game. Now, those of us that have been around the NBA, there's certain cities you're going to lose in. Toronto, Atlanta, Miami. Why? Because they have great nightlife. So what they should have done, somebody in leadership should have said, we're not staying here tonight. We're getting on this plane. We're trying to jockey for playoff position. We got a game tomorrow that we absolutely need to win. But they didn't do that. There's no legitimate firmness and structure. There's a guy that used to be head of security for the Sixers, and he told me some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He said things like, there's a curfew, and then guys coming in late, and Coach Brown not putting his foot down, just kind of saying okay, guys, don't do that again. You don't win basketball games. If the Last Dance has taught you anything,
Yeah,
it shows you, hey man, at some point, take Dennis Rodman out the equation. He's an anomaly, and Phil Jackson is a genius, because you with somebody like Dennis Rodman, you kind of got to bend, don't break. But everybody else was in line. Why? Because Michael Jordan on the court, Phil Jackson off the court. It was top down. And then, of course, like Jerry Reinsdorf, like it's all top down, So I don't trust the process. I don't like Joel Embiid playing small at the end of the game. You're the biggest guy out there, and he's super skilled and he's very dominant. Why are you 35 feet away from the basket? In those moments, give me the rock, hit the block. They can't stop you. Impose your will. He talked about bully ball 2 years ago. And when I go in the locker room, I ask him, I'm like, yo, where's the bully ball, man? Like, what's going on? And I don't want to be a malcontent, but I just want to know, like, I ask these guys questions because they tell us these things. Like Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons told me he wanted to be great. Great. You want to be great? Okay, so what are you doing to be great? You want to win MVP? Don't just tell me these things. Like, the little boy in me still believes in this game. So, like, I'm trying to really understand what your mindset is, because when you say great, I think David Robinson. I think Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, these are champions. These guys are great centers. I think Moses Malone. God rest his soul. Like, he used to be a special consultant for the Sixers. So he used to be in the locker room and at practice all the time. And this is like the Andre Iguodala era. And I used to ask him, like, Coach, like, what's going on? What's up with today's big men? And he used to say they need gunpowder. And that was his way, his old school way of saying, like, these dudes, they got Twinkie feeling, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, things change. So, I have to kind of take that 90s basketball hat off and just kind of understand, like, this is a different era. But at the same time, the game is the game.
Got you.
Well, let me ask you this really quick, TJ, before go ahead.
Go ahead.
You mentioned specifically Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and this has been a matter of contention, as TJ alluded to a little bit ago. Who do you think has the biggest adjustment to make in order for them to be at least able to move forward from this?
I think it's Ben, because he's a point guard in this system, or a point forward. And that's really like the toughest position to learn in the NBA. And it could take a few years. I think he kind of started coming into his own early on in the bubble. And he was looking really good, playing the point forward. But, he has to really work on his jump shot and also trust it. Because everybody knows, if you don't shoot the ball, you hurt your team. You gotta put the ball up. I don't care. Put it up. It's either gonna go in, or we got a shot at an offensive rebound. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't put it up, okay, that makes it easier for the defense. That hurts the offense. Like, so he's the one that has to really continue to turn the corner. Joel Embiid, I think he's an amazing talent. He might be like the ninth wonder of the world, but he still has to learn how to play front court basketball and know when to dominate in the post.
Pick his spots better.
Yep, absolutely.
AG, real quick, we have some more time, and we have just two quick questions for you.
Sure, yeah, take your time.
Get their day rocking and rolling, and we want to thank you so much for being a part of the Stoop this morning, man. If you had to pick two athletes all time, no matter what sport, whatever lines we cross, what would be your two dream interviews all time? What would they be, man?
Of all time, Muhammad Ali for sure.
Wow.
Like, let's sit down. Let's talk. Like, black is beautiful. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Muhammad Ali. And then I would say, probably give me Jackie Robinson or Willie Mays.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Those would definitely be iconic, and those would be, as we say, for the culture, but not even for that culture. Right now, we're going through a lot of social and racial injustice around the world. And those names that you name, like the greatest Ali, and also the groundbreaker, the barrier breaker, Jackie Robinson, those are two late great icons in our history. And yeah, those will definitely be poignant in today's time. And
Yeah.
we can learn a lot from those two gentlemen. And even to say, hey, kid, we can learn a lot from him as well.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And last, AG, real quick, man. If AG had to pick and select, and this is always tough, man, but I just wanted to hear what you thought. Who would be those 4 guys on your Mount Rushmore, man?
Like across sports?
I was going. Well, you can go across sports, but I want to know what they would be for basketball. But you could do both.
Okay, so I'll do basketball first. That's easiest for me. I'd go Wilt, Kareem, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. I would.
Kareem, Magic, and Mike. That's a great 4.
Yeah, I would pick those guys for sure. And that's hard because I left Kobe off there. That's my guy. Yeah, but that's what I'm rolling with. Like Magic is my all-time favorite player.
Got it.
Yeah, and then for across sports, I'd have to go Muhammad Ali. Kareem, probably Jesse Owens, and Serena.
Like that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't give her just due in terms of a champion and her being an icon and revolutionizing the sport of tennis, coming from Compton, California, and her and her sister, and even I'll throw Mr. Williams, their whole story in, man. So appreciate you on that, AG. But you know, you're a consummate professional, so you know this game inside and out. But we appreciate that. Go ahead,
One
Kevin.
thing I noticed about your Mount Rushmore across sports is that you got it seems to be dominated by some activists there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I've always looked up to the people that spoke out and really tried to make a difference, you know, and 3 of those people did things so that we could be better. You know what I mean? Like, and I love that, you know. If you could throw Jim Brown in there, but I love that. You know, I love history. I love sports. I love us. So when you can combine those elements together, you got my attention. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember meeting Hank Aaron at the World Series, and he was like, I was like, Mr. Aaron, hey, how you doing, sir? And he was like, you know me? I was like, yes, sir. I was like, you used to bat cross hands. And he was like, hey, man, okay, yeah. Nice to meet you, young fella.
Stuff.
Yeah, I think he was just kind of confused. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You kind of young, man. I was like, I'm young. I read, you know. So I had to give him his flowers, man.
Absolutely.
He's the man.
Absolutely. Well, listen, AG, I don't even know how to say this, but I'll just be honest with you. You did not have to do this. You did not have to take your time out of your day. We're up and coming show. You being a legend in the game, and I don't say that. I say that really, you're a legend in the game. Iconic figure yourself. By no means did you have to do our show. You could have been like TJ, kick rocks, but I really want to say from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you for taking time out of your schedule, stopping by the Stoop, answering questions with me and Kev. And I know you talked about Ahmad Rashad being your barometer, but I want to let you know, if I don't take another breath or say another word, you are my barometer in this game, man, and I would love to ascend to the levels that you touched before it's all said and done with myself, man. So once again, I really want to say thank you, and it means a lot for you to stop by the Stoop today, man.
Hey, man, thank you, brother. Like, for real, like, you're a good dude. You're ambitious. You know, Kev, it's good to talk to you as well, man. Like, I thank you guys for having me, and I appreciate what y'all are doing, man. You know, like, if we don't tell our stories, who's going to tell them? You know, that's what Scoop Jackson used to always say, you know. So no matter how far I go, I definitely want to make time for things that shed light on who we are and highlights and tells our stories, you know. So keep going. You guys are doing, you know, great things, and whatever I can do to help, I'm here.
All right. Well, once again, for the Stoop, my guy Kev P over there, we want to thank you so much, Mr. Anthony A.G. Gilbert, for sitting down on the Stoop. It's been another great episode. See y'all soon. Take care.
Some say that it gets no real on the field or the court. We capture the thrillers. Some opinions and all of the truth. Real people talking real sports on the Stoop.